351-5358. That's 351-5358. And don't forget, we also do men and children's cuts too. 351-5358.
Hello, gorgeous.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala!
All right, 6 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in to The Source this Thursday morning. I was just looking through the information that prepares me for our guests, and I'm fascinated already by what I'm looking at. Stephen Hupp is on the phone. He's a professor of clinical child and school psychology at Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville. He's a licensed clinical psychologist and a consultant for the East St. Louis Head Start program, and he's an author. His book is called Great Myths of Child Development. One of them, Robin, you have a pet peeve with. You every time somebody brings up the terrible twos, you always will, you express that you don't really believe that there is such a thing, right?
Exactly.
So we're going to find out the truth about some myths, including some scientific ones, like the XX and XY chromosomes, which I would have thought that too. But let me not say any more before I get anything wrong here. Stephen Hupp, good morning. Thank you for being with us today.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. Where are you right now?
I am in Edwardsville, Illinois, where my university is.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you for being on the air with us today. Yeah, I was looking at this, and I guess some of these things I kind of with Robin on the terrible twos thing. I've always thought, well, my son wasn't so terrible at two.
Yeah, my children weren't.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's across the board, but anyway, thank you for being on. So have you had a lot of feedback about the book so far?
It just came out about 2 weeks ago, and we've been getting a lot of feedback for the last 2 weeks. It's been a lot of fun.
So do you think that a new mom or a new dad reading the book will have the tools from the book that will prevent them from making some mistakes that maybe have been made over and over again throughout history, at least American history?
Well, we definitely wrote the book with moms and dads in mind, just all parents, step-parents, foster parents, grandparents, soon-to-be parents, and anyone else skeptical of parenting poppycock. And we tried to put tools in the book to help just about anybody out.
All right, so let's look at some of these things. First of all, sex prediction. In today's world, sex prediction, it doesn't have to have a coin, a pendulum over a woman's belly. I mean, we actually have the scientific way of knowing in advance what the baby's sex is.
Right. It's kind of a fun one that we wrote about. It's still, people use other ways besides scientific ways. So one way people have tried to use is by the shape of the mother's belly. So like high into the front or a basketball shape is said to be predictive of a boy, and a low, more toward the back, watermelon, sweet shape is said to be predictive of a girl. And we looked into the research on that, and that's about as effective as flipping a coin.
Okay.
I love that.
It's kind of funny.
So a baby, while being in the mother's womb, I feel, is very much aware of all the sounds surrounding it and all of the tensions or non-tensions in the mother's life.
Well, there's definitely things that babies can hear inside the womb. They can even have some tastes from the amniotic fluid. So there's a lot of things that, like taste of whatever the mother has eaten, they can taste that at a certain point. And so there's all kinds of ways mothers can influence babies even in the womb. One
of the things that is mentioned in the prep material is the baby Einstein type of, I think they're DVDs. Are they just audio or video? They're both? Are they both? Whatever they are.
I think they're both.
Okay, so now when I heard about this, I thought, well, that makes sense. You expose children to things and they'll learn. But you don't think that's necessarily the case, right?
Well, and when my kids were babies, we had some baby Einstein DVDs and other things like that, and they would be drawn to looking at those like they might other things. But the research we looked in the book kind of debunks the idea that somehow watching that will make them smarter.
I think you have to have that interaction between the parents and the child always. You just can't set a child down in front of a television set or a computer and just say, okay, I'll see you later.
Yeah, that's actually it. And you theoretically, you could use those DVDs like that, where you'd kind of use those as a way to interact. So if like you're showing it the video and then you're pointing out things and talking to the baby and interacting in that way, you know, that can be beneficial. Babies learn a lot from the human interaction, but not much from just passively sitting and watching something.
So what are your thoughts on the whole Santa Claus thing? I mean, should we continue that?
Well,
it's a tough one.
That's not a topic.
That's a tough one.
It's not a topic we get in. It's a fun topic. I'm not speaking so much as a psychologist as a father, but both my kids believed in Santa Claus for a long time, and I definitely encouraged that, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm definitely open to any parent wanting to do that. At the same time, my kids were kind of scared of like a stranger coming into our house and dropping off things, and so they were scared of Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, no matter how fun we tried to make them seem.
Yeah. I guess I should have used the Easter Bunny since the time of year we're in right now.
Right.
Santa rules.
All right. So now, when my son was little, I remember that my wife and I had this little circular thing with wheels on it that he sat in, but his feet reached the ground, and it was like he was walking, but he couldn't walk yet. And he was so fast in that thing.
Yeah,
I used to always worry about it because he could really travel across the floor with that thing. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but you say in the notes here that it doesn't really help them walk any sooner. Is that, you want to elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, baby walkers are very commonly used. Like you said, little wheeled contraption where babies can get around, kind of move around. They're not really walking, but they're like kind of Fred Flintstone moving,
right.
In like a little Fred Flintstone car. And so a lot of people use those thinking it actually is going to speed up the walking process. And we looked at research on pretty well-controlled research. Does it speed up the walking process? And it does not. If anything, it might slow it down a couple weeks if you use baby walkers too much. And the other thing that you kind of touched on is you should be a little nervous about some baby walkers because there have been a lot of injuries from kids accidentally going down the stairs or knocking something off a table onto their head. And so the American Academy of Pediatrics really cautions parents against it. And something interesting we learned when we were working on the book is that baby walkers are actually banned in Canada.
Wow.
You cannot sell them or buy them in Canada. And it's led to a baby walker black market.
Oh, gee.
No. Well, you know,
people don't want to give them up.
So let me tell you one memory I have. I remember we had a kitchen that had tile, and then there was this and then there was carpeting, and the thing that's kind of divided the carpeting from the tile was this like metal molding or strip or something on the floor. And if he was flying across the kitchen floor, when he hit that metal thing, he would literally tip over. I mean, and sometimes fast, and I would have to always stop him. It's like, holy mackerel, this is too fast. So I could see that could be really dangerous.
They do make them safer now, but it's still something to be cautious about.
It seems, though, that once a child is born and then they start flipping over in the crib, something must go off in their senses to keep them growing as fast as they do, because they learn in a very short amount of time how to walk, how to crawl, how to let the parents know without speaking the words that their diaper needs changing. And the baby brain is absolutely amazing.
Oh, absolutely. You kind of talked in terms of in the crib. We start off with kind of back to sleep, have to sleep on their backs, but pretty quickly they start learning how to flip over, and then things just take off from there.
We need to take a little break, and we'll be right back. Great Myths of Child Development is the title of the book that Stephen Hupp has written. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Intervals of clouds and sun today with a passing shower, high 81 to 85. Partly cloudy and mild tonight, though 63 to 67. More clouds and sun tomorrow with a passing shower, high 80 to 84. On Saturday, sun, some clouds, and a shower or thunderstorm in the afternoon, a high 81 to 85. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Get it for less at the DIY Home Center outlet. Get top quality real wood cabinets the same or less than the big box stores are selling the cheap stuff. And that's not all. Drywall screws big box stores are $6.47 a pound. At DIY, only $4.99. Plus, DIY has the largest selection of mobile home parts and accessories anywhere. From carpet to doors, get the DIY supplies you need for less. The DIY Home Center outlet. We are your building material closeout store. 2191 Northwest 10th Street, just 2 miles east of I-75.
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
Do your inhale and exhale for a count of 5. Repeat that a few times, and you'll feel the stress relief immediately. If you've ever wondered if the woman in your life is a mind reader, well, she is. It's not because she has supernatural powers. It's because women are a lot more intuitive than men, much better than us. If you like raw fish, get an order of sashimi. You get a good dose of protein for 1/3 the calories of a specialty roll.
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
Stay informed on everything going on in the villages with the Village Spectator newspaper. The Village Spectator is exclusively devoted to the villages with news, commentary, and more. And yes, they have Tom's Picks, a free referral for people who are looking for a company to do work for them. Tom's Picks will refer the company that fits your needs, and all we ask is that you tell them where you heard about them. Call Tom's Picks at 804-1223 and pick up your copy of the Village Spectator today.
Now read Ocala Downtown newspaper online.
Robin and I have come up with a fun way that you can help us to help the Marion County Literacy Council. We call it the Oompa Surprise.
For a donation of any amount, you can hire Larry and I as strolling musicians for any event, meeting, party, or get-together of any kind.
That's right, a donation of any amount. Robin plays mandolin and I play accordion. Our instrumental music will add an air of ambiance.
It goes perfect with a wine and cheese event, but think outside the box. Have fun with this. Invite us to your board meeting, your restaurant gathering, or even another fundraiser.
100% of your donation to our Oompa Surprise campaign will go to the Marion County Literacy Council and help us win this year's Kiss the Horse for Literacy campaign.
So call me and schedule a date. Call me here at WOCA The Source at 732-8000.
Just one more way WOCA The Source is reaching out to Ocala and Marion County to make this the best community possible. All right, 18 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Stephen Hupp is on the phone. And where did he say he was again? It's in Illinois. What did he say? Well, I can't remember where he said he was. His book is
Edwards, Illinois.
Edwards. Okay. Where's Edwards? Is it near Chicago?
Real close to St. Louis.
Okay, St. Louis. Okay, I don't know. Robin is from the Midwest. I draw a blank. Everything in the Midwest. I don't know. So one of the things I wanted to bring up, I know you want to talk about the terrible twos also, but I always thought this was science, the chromosome things. Explain the chromosome thing.
Well, that was a kind of a challenging myth for us to write about, and it is science in the sense that for the most part, most girls have 2 sex chromosomes. They're both X's, so most girls are XX, whereas most boys also have 2 sex chromosomes, but they have 1 X and 1 Y. And the idea of the myth here is that people believe those are really the only 2 possibilities. But there's actually some rare cases. About 1% of the time, it's something different than that. So every once in a while, you can have a boy that has 2 X sex chromosomes, and sometimes you can have a girl that has an X and a Y. Okay, so this may be controversial or even insensitive, and I don't mean it to be, but I'm just curious. Would that explain homosexuality? Well, in some cases, it would. Not always. There's other factors, but there's so many different variations in our sex chromosomes and their possibilities that you get lots of variation in the human expression of gender and sexuality. Is there anything that you can comment on that might be a myth regarding raising children as their gender? Giving little girls dolls, giving little boys trucks, that kind of thing? Well, one of the things we put in the surprising but true is just how this little section at the end, we just looked for things that were true but surprising, and that our conceptualization of gender really has changed over time. So, for example, it used to be really common for little boys to have really long hair and wear dresses. And we've got a picture, or we talk about a picture in the book of Franklin Delano Roosevelt as a young like about a 4-year-old who looks like he's dressed up like a little girl, but that's just because that's how was the norm of the time.
Right. Oh, okay. So,
what do you think about the people that say that children bond with their mothers but not their fathers? I myself don't agree with that because I was very close to my dad.
Yeah, I don't agree with it either. There's really not research to show that children can only bond to their mothers. You know, there's equal bonding can happen with fathers too.
And I know because of my family that a child can bond if he's adopted or she's adopted.
Yes.
That whole you need to be there at the birth moment. It may not be true. Correct?
Oh, that's absolutely true. That's not really, we didn't cover it in this book, but if we're lucky to do a second edition, I think that'd be a perfect one. This idea that parents don't, or that kids and their foster parents don't bond or attach. A colleague of mine, Gene Mercer, has actually published a lot on this idea, and there's a lot of myths surrounding it, but definitely adopted parents can bond and attach with their kids just like anybody else.
Okay, I caught a little bit of what you said during the break about the terrible twos, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but did you want to say more about the terrible twos?
Yeah, you brought it up earlier. I didn't get a chance to say much, and so it was one of my favorite topics in the book because we actually added it late. I just kind of was challenging some of my own assumptions I was raised on. And when my son was 1 year old, I used to say he was advanced because I was saying he already entered the terrible twos phase at only 1. And I've heard other people when their kids are 3 or 4 or 5 years old saying, oh, now my child is finally in the terrible twos. And just recently, Kanye West said he went through the terrible twos when he was 35 years old.
Of course.
And so in the book, we decided to look for research to see like how much do kids have tantrums or other terrible behavior at different ages. And there's not really a specific time when kids are most likely to have terrible behavior. 1-year-olds have terrible behavior, so do 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and even 35-year-olds like Kanye West have terrible behavior sometimes.
You talk about baby talk. I have never spoken baby talk to my children growing up or other babies as well, but yet you still hear parents and other people doing that. What are your feelings?
Well, there's so many different aspects to baby talk, and so there might be certain types of baby talk that you don't use, but it's really hard to interact with a baby without making some changes to your voice inflection or your intonation. And so Neil Patrick Harris, a host of the Oscars, recently said he didn't talk down to his babies in baby talk with the idea that it was harmful. And it's fine. We kind of make the case you can, as long as you're talking with your baby, it doesn't matter too much how you do it. But we did debunk this idea that baby talk is harmful. So basically, babies are more likely to pay attention if you use some aspects of baby talk, like raising your voice inflection, for example.
How do you know the difference between what a child is demonstrating as a possible future occupation of that child? Well, how do you know the difference between the nature aspect of that and the nurture aspect of that? And I've always had this thought that if I looked at a home movie of Robin when she was little, for example, I might see some hints as to what she became as an adult. I remember children playing with cars that became mechanics, children playing with musical instruments that went on to showbiz kind of things. I mean, is it nature or nurture? Why does that stuff happen?
Well, I'd say like with just about any human behavior or trait, it's going to be some interaction between nature and nurture. But, I mean, you're raising a great question. I've got a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old in my house, and I'm just racking my brain trying to figure out what they're going to be when they grow up. And I just have no idea. But I know when I was their age, I was dead set on becoming an architect. And I even went to college my first year to be an architect, and that pretty quickly changed in a completely different direction to child development.
Really? So do we buck the system if a school, once the child is in school, and let's say the guidance counselor says, you know, your child has an aptitude for art. Do we buck the system, their system, by telling them, you know what, you can give it a shot, but I think he's more inclined to want to be doing technical things or something? I don't know. I mean, do we use this information so that we can maybe take a strong support or defense of our children when the school tells us they should be in one direction and we feel it should be another?
Well, I think it's reasonable to trust your own gut to some extent, but I'd get feedback from the school if they say they've got an aptitude for something, and so I guess just as a parent now I'm speaking, but I want to try and expose my child to lots of different things, and so if the school's saying she's good at art, then I want to give her a chance to take some extra art classes. But if I think, she might be better at working with people as a psychologist one day, then I might want to give her some opportunities to develop those skills too. So, in my mind, you give kids a lot of different opportunities, and then they're going to eventually run with one or two of them.
Does birth order affect success? I mean, we hear about that in England's royalty all the time. The first child is the child, and then everybody else is like secondary.
Yeah, we looked at birth order, and a lot is made out of birth order if you read some pop child psychology types of books. And when you look at the research, there's some small traits that birth order can have a small effect on. It's not a zero effect, but it's really pretty minor. It's not a very powerful predictor of your personality or who you're going to become.
So here,
the one we especially focused on was only children, this idea that if you don't have siblings, you're going to be spoiled, selfish, or lonely. Mm-hmm. And I've always not liked that one because I'm an only child, but we could not find any. I made my co-author write that chapter because I was too biased. He couldn't find research, or research really does not support this idea that only children are selfish and spoiled.
All right, I'll tell you one that is a button pusher on talk radio. If you bring up vaccines, because there's a segment of the population that will call in and absolutely insist that vaccines are some kind of a government conspiracy. Mm-hmm. Others will say, that they don't believe in it or whatever for other reasons. I don't know what position to have. I mean, I've always been the one. Well, I had vaccines when I was a kid. My son got vaccines. Everything seems to be fine. But we've had some people who very convincingly tell us that the vaccines cause their child to be autistic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the research is clear on this, especially in the last 10 years. There's been so much made of this idea and so much research done with hundreds of thousands of people, some of which their kids have had vaccines and some of which their kids haven't. And the research is very clear that vaccines do not cause autism.
What about spankings and punishment in general? Any myths regarding those?
Yeah, we went into a couple. We talked about both spanking and timeout. On spanking, we kind of looked at the angle of if you don't spank a kid, will they become spoiled? And the basic message we send in the book is spanking is not the only tool to use, and you can raise a child who's not spoiled even if you don't spank, as long as you have some discipline you're using. So the idea is you do need some discipline. It doesn't need to be spanking.
I was spanked. My son was never spanked. I think I turned out right. I think he turned out all right. Yeah. So it's just, who knows?
Well, and in terms of spanking, I kind of always tell parents, if you're going to spank occasionally, it's not going to be that big a deal, as long as you're doing it in a safe way. But if you're spanking on a frequent basis, then that's where you're kind of set up risks for harm.
And I think the parents always has to have that open conversation with the children, because if the child does something wrong, in my opinion, the parents should tell them what they did wrong, what the consequences would be, and then speak to them intelligently about that instead of throwing them on a stool in a corner somewhere facing the wall.
Well, that's one of the limitations of spanking and timeout, is that they're both just focusing on teaching kids what not to do. And as parents, we need to put more effort into teaching them what to do instead.
All right, Stephen, thank you for being on with us today. The book is called Great Myths of Child Development. Do you want to give us a website?
You can find it on Amazon.com, but I also have my own website at StephenHupp.com, Stephen with a PH.
Okay, and Hupp with 2 P's. And plus, yep. Robin has the information on the Facebook page already, and the guest list page, I should say. Stephen, thank you. Good luck with the book. That was an interesting conversation. Being parents, I found that interesting. Yes. Thank you, Stephen.
Great questions. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll be right back.
Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. 2 police officers